action.
Good evening and welcome to the Tibet Center at the University Settlement, 273 Bowery, which is on the corner of the Bowery and Houston Street. So we shall begin with the prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West, which you'll find down in the FAQ section. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddha's teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there, together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we had hoped and wished. Now we will read the Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas, called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" And Avalokiteshvara answered, "Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form, emptiness is not separate from form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors in consciousness are empty. Thus, all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future by means of transcendent knowledge fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, The mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhiswaha. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering of the world with its gods, humans, asuras and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. Now we will generate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Okay, now we shall do a rosary of medicine Buddha mantras, which we will dedicate to His Holiness as he recovers from his knee replacement surgery. So, Tadyata Om Bingatse Maha Bingatse Raja Samudgate Svaha. Tadyata Om Bingatse Maha Bingatse Raja Samudgate Svaha. Tadyata Om Maha Bingatse Raja Samudgate Om Bingatse Maha Bingatse Tadyata Om Bingatse Maha. Tadyata Om Bingate Begate Maha Bingate Raja Samudgate Swaha. So, we have been discussing Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole World by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And since we have a class here on Tuesday evenings and then a class in New York, in New Jersey on Wednesday evenings, let us resume from, I have a note, page 80 is where we left off on the Tuesday evening class. So one of the things that His Holiness has been discussing is the two qualities that we have to work on. One is our motivation regarding the way we behave. Our actions should be motivated by compassion. However, a compassionate motivation alone will not suffice. We need the discernment by which we figure out what the best thing is to do. And if we bring these two qualities together and we really cultivate a virtuous, compassionate motivation, and we bring the intelligence, the wisdom of discernment into how we act upon that compassion, then we can be effective in being of benefit. However, His Holiness says to really implement this discernment, to really know all the variables that we are acting in respect to, we would have to possess the omniscience of a Buddha. We would need the clairvoyance that could determine exactly how to navigate a very, very complicated situation, life. We don't have that. However, if we approach this assumption of responsibility towards our environment, towards our community, towards our society, if we approach that with a pure motivation, and if we bring to it as much discernment as we can, if we really work to figure out the situation and work towards taking our steps as skillfully as possible, then that's as good as it can be. That's all we can do. And we shouldn't worry about the situation. We shouldn't worry about the effectiveness of what we're doing. That's as much as we can do. And I feel that it's worth really stressing the fact that the world out there is talking from a karmic point of view, the world, the situation that we live in, the situation within which we are acting, is, from a karmic point of view, the manifestation of our past actions, our actions of body, of speech, and of mind. So that, in a sense, all we can really do is ensure that the way we behave towards this is as virtuous as possible. And that in itself fulfills our obligation, our mandate, our ability. We can't go farther than that. But if we see the situation, this complicated situation that we're facing,
as being the manifestation of our past actions, if we see it as what we are confronting due to our own karma, our own actions, and here I think it's important to stress that we're not talking specifically about the physical actions that we engage in. The most important action that we engage in are mental actions. And here also I should say, we're not talking about the actions that we have engaged in limiting ourselves to this life. It is particularly the actions that we have engaged in since times immemorial. It is all the past actions that we've engaged in over infinite past lives that have created the situation that we are presently experiencing. So it's not that we can necessarily exert the effort to change. We don't have full control over, we have no control over what we did in the past, but all we can do is control the way we're behaving right now in respect to the situation we're before. That's the variable that we can control. The past, the habits that we have formed, the mental habits, the physical habits, the verbal habits that we have, these are things that we all know the degree to which we are on automatic most of the time, and these things just happen. These things just take us over, and all of that. So these are the habits that are here. We're thinking about the karmic aspect of our own behavior. So that's one aspect of karma. And though we can't control what we did in the past that has caused us to behave the way we behave, what we can do is make effort to diminish the negative aspects of our behavior and increase the virtuous ones. That we can do. We can do it to a certain extent. That we do by means of analytical meditation, by means of really considering the negative habits that we have and determining and recognizing their negative quality, regretting them, and really putting effort into diminishing the habits, and doing so with a certain faith in the virtuous influences, our teachers, the Buddhas, who help us along this path. So taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and then engaging in this this recognition of the negative aspects of what we engage in, and developing regret and the determination to cease this behavior, at work at diminishing it and eventually ceasing, is that's what we can do. The environment that we find ourselves in, the all aspects of the environment that we find ourselves in, and the behavior of others, especially towards us, all of that is also the result of our behavior. So that this whole extraordinary operatic scene that we're in the middle of, we have created. So here I'm really not talking about us. I'm talking about the environment within which we are living, the difficulties we have, the pleasures that we experience, the friendly people, the challenging people. All of those things are also due to our past actions. They are all the creation of our past actions. So we are this. I think that it's. I'm talking. We are Buddhists here tonight. I think that to see this work at developing an ethical behavior, I think that the variables that His Holiness refers to here as being beyond our control, I think that it is important for us to acknowledge that those variables that are beyond our control are nonetheless of our creation. We have created them. And the way if we really see the whole world as this extraordinary creation that we are responsible for, then any positivity that we contribute to it will affect this whole extraordinary creation in a positive way. We have this, we are like the conductor of an orchestra. We are like the director of a play or of a movie or whatever. We are bringing to this whole scene positivity by our actions. And though we can't expect that positivity to affect the scene immediately, bring about immediate positive results, we can be sure that any positive behavior that we contribute to the scene will actually affect it. Definitely, without a doubt, we can actually take, we can bank on it. So I'll go back to the inevitable uncertainty on page 80. And His Holiness, and we went over this last week, but of course, no matter how hard we may try, human discernment is always incomplete. Unless we are clairvoyant or omniscient, like Buddha or like God, we will never see the entire picture, and we will never know all the causes that have given rise to any situation. Bless you. So it is true that we will never see the entire picture, but what I'm suggesting is that, bless you, is that we are actually responsible for the entire picture. Nor can we foresee all the consequences of our actions. There is always bound to be some element of uncertainty. It is important to acknowledge this. Bless you, bless you. You're responsible for your... But it should not worry us. So, what?
Not that yet, but I'm getting there. Isn't it? That's all.
So, nor can we foresee all the consequences of our actions. There is always bound to be some element of uncertainty. It is important to acknowledge this, but it should not worry us. Don't be worried.
Sorry. Nothing to see that.
Still less should it make us despair of the value of rational assessment. Instead, it should temper our actions with proper humility and caution. Sometimes admitting that we do not know an answer can be helpful in itself. If we do not know something, it is better to admit it openly than to feign certainty out of misplaced pride or vanity. So, I don't know, do you want to discuss this whole thing of...
Problem here, you said something, we can't control our past, or what's gonna come up. He's talking to non-Buddhists, so he can't mention purification practices that might dull the karma that's coming our way. So he sort of is limited here in the book, and we should remember that we have another tool.
Yeah, that's why I say, talking as Buddhists, I feel that it's...
Buddhists, right.
But yes, as Tony says, the book is written not. This is beyond religion. This is secular ethics, so that the Buddhist concepts of karma don't enter the picture.
It's tricky. Forget all the time. Supposed to be playing the role of non-religious. Tough.
So this uncertainty is another reason why ethics must be grounded at the level of motivation. So when we talk about this uncertainty that you are highlighting, the fact is that I wasn't suggesting that a Buddhist approach would bring any certainty to the situation. The only certainty that we should really work at bringing to it is the certainty that we are responsible for the situation that we experience. We should try to assume responsibility for our situation as well as possible. That will only strengthen our feeling of it'll give us determination to act in a constructive way, accepting the laws of cause and effect. Give us I don't want to say entitlement, but they empower. It's empowerment. It's empowering, and that empowerment should be an aspect of our spiritual or religious or our spiritual engagement in life.
I think sometimes people in the West who don't understand karma, perhaps the way we do, almost think of it something's fated to happen, and that we don't have control to react and change things as we go through them. So it's a really good point to talk about uncertainty, particularly with people who might misinterpret that.
Not determined.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a predestination, it's just, you know.
So I hope everyone hears this. This is a very important point. Can you say it with feeling? I'm aiming the mic at you.
Let's see if I can remember what I said. No, it just has to do with, many people in the West interpret karma as being something predetermined or fated.
Right.
People talk about fate,
Right.
and they don't feel empowered to acknowledge things and change things as they encounter them. So, I mean, I really like the language when they talk about causes and conditions, because we can have the proper motivation and things around us still may not resolve the way we want them to. We just have to have that joyous perseverance or whatever that determination is to continue to try to make it better, and hopefully it'll happen in our lifetime or the next lifetime.
The idea of it's fate, that these people don't believe in non-inherent existence. They have a framework of everything's inherent existence. But the fact that there's causes and conditions, we can do something.
Right.
You know, it's not inherent existence, so they react to causation.
Well,
we can jump into the ring. I guess. I don't know.
I just also find that sometimes I think talking about causes and conditions also helps explain sometimes why bad things happen. Like those causes have festered, people hadn't, combated them or changed them, and they continue to go on until you create conditions, which will make things to change. And I think it's again, that's part of the empowering, realizing that you can do it. It just may not happen quickly, which is what people expect.
You should repeat your quote, Nikki, your great quote about karma. You forgot it already. Karma doesn't judge, it explains.
Right.
I wonder about the whole thing of that our entire experience is the result of our own past actions. Because it seems like there can be aspects of our experience which you can observe which don't necessarily, that we feel neutral about, or there seems to be cause and effect that happens divorced from a mental process, so processes of nature and things like that. Such as plants growing. So that seems to be part of our experience. I mean, I've always wondered about this, how the natural world is somehow connected with our mind. It's processes that seem to go on apart from our minds.
So karma doesn't necessarily go on with your mind, as it were. Karma, the existence of this building, which we are experiencing due to our deserving to experience this building, is not related to our mind.
Well, I think in the sense that we had an intended action in the past, or we had an action of intention, and then that planted a seed, which then allowed us to have shelter here today, if you want to put it that way.
And the plant, you feel that that's different?
So the plant,
You see the beautiful flower that's growing, or you see the weeds, or
so my enjoyment of whatever you're referring to would be karmic, but the forest seems to go on growing, whether I'm looking at it or enjoying it or disliking it or not.
But that aspect of the forest that you do experience
Is karmic, yes, totally. But couldn't there, what I'm saying,
so the front row is karmic. All the back seats are.
No, but I mean, would you accept that there are cause and effect processes that are not necessarily connected with someone's experience of them? Not karmic, cause and effect, not karmic.
Think about it.
Okay,
It's a strange
If
way of
a
putting it.
tree falls in the forest and no
Exactly.
one hears it,
right.
doesn't someone hear it? Isn't it some?
Yeah, they say because the Buddhist consciousness is everywhere, so.
Think of the little insects who are there running around.
Yeah, the chipmunks and
Yeah. And we're thinking about it. I mean, it's there in that sense.
So you're saying there's not anything which is not connected with someone's karmic
Someone's
experience.
karmic, yeah, definitely. Not necessarily my own. There's a lot that I'm oblivious to that doesn't make up the operatic scene that I'm experiencing.
Right. Someone's though. Couldn't you conceive of some part of the universe being
Free of sentient beings?
yes. Not obviously not free of
Pocket.
obviously not free of Buddha's mind.
I don't know, I think that there must be sentient beings everywhere. Of, varying,
Sentience.
varying,
sentient.
Sophistication of mind. Yeah.
but I couldn't establish it in any way. Okay, we shall move on.
Go off track.
So, this uncertainty is another reason why ethics must be grounded at the level of motivation, as I have said, rather than purely on consideration
cannot know all the variables, it is particularly important that as we step in, we bring to the situation that variable that we do have control over, i.e. our virtuous motivation. The fact is, the consequences of our actions are often not within our control. Where we do have control is at the level of motivation and in deploying our critical faculties, our discernment. When we combine these two elements, motivation and discernment, we can ensure that we're doing our best. And all we can do is our best. I mean, as we engage, all we can do is our best.
I like that, you know, it's very,
Well, also
very nourishing, I thought.
learn from the consequences of things that happen when we don't do our best with a positive angle as opposed to a negative, as opposed to, oh, I wasn't able to do that, but here's how I can do it better, or.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, because people get discouraged, right?
Okay.
When they can't accomplish things.
Also, I think that it's, for me, it's helpful to recognize that maybe whatever I'm doing, trying to deal with the situation in the present, even if it doesn't just seem to have any effect in the present, that there's comfort or there's a faith in knowing that if I act patiently, with equanimity in the future, that's going to create experiences for me which are more manageable, even though in that situation it might not have any obvious positive effects.
Yes, I think it's very important for us to, as we engage, not necessarily feel that we are going to reap the benefits in this life. Now that can, you know, for someone who doesn't believe in future lives, that can be pretty depressing.
Nothing happens in this life. It's terrible. Unless you pay.
Well, that's why I really like the act of dedication when you do something, because it makes you aware as you go through your day or your life that you're consciously contributing towards something, which is a positive reinforcement. Because you know, it's easy to be kind of thoughtless and occasionally do good things or bad things, but when you dedicate as it happens, then in your mind you can kind of think about that accumulation of good for someone, even if it's not for you.
Yes, the whole idea of deriving the or viewing positivity, virtue, as something that you can actually, by delighting in it and by dedicating it, actually increase the potency of, is a wonderful thought. I mean, if we're, yes, and the interest that you get, the interest that you are paid, is established by you and by the degree of your virtuous thought, right? So you have full power over the yes, and you don't have to do anything except a little thinking. Yes, thank you. That's very nice. So, the fruits of discernment. All the uses of discernment outlined above give us understanding, and the reflection on that understanding gives us a deeper and more enduring awareness. When discernment is combined with a compassionate motivation, we have the two key components of a comprehensive approach to ethics and spiritual well-being in a secular context. And these two components, compassion and discernment, are mutually reinforcing. Compassion, by reducing fear and distrust, creates a space in our hearts and minds that is calm and settled. And this space makes it much easier for us to exercise discernment or intelligence. Similarly, the exercise of discernment can strengthen our conviction of the necessity and the benefits of compassion. The two, therefore, complement each other in a profound way. Now, this is, we should go over this carefully.
Amazing judo. It
Yeah,
connects
that's
stuff
really
that-
great.
I like
So,
the quote.
The two elements that His Holiness is, so compassion by reducing fear and distrust. So as we cultivate compassion, this wish to remove the suffering of others, that attitude of compassion diminishes fear and distrust and creates a space in our hearts and in our minds that is calm and settled. And this space makes it much more easy for us to exercise discernment or intelligence. So compassion provides us with the peace of mind that enables us to be more discerning. That's interesting. That's
Learning the side benefits of compassion. People like that, oh, I get that. And I like the term ethics and spiritual well-being in a secular context. That's wild. That's,
So-
being in religion without people realizing it. Geez, so clever. You picked your pocket, you never know. Bless you, Jane.
now that's not picking your pocket.
No, that's
that's
giving.
putting something in.
No, you don't even know it. Positive transfusion that you don't feel for a few days.
It's like the opposite would be fear takes up all that space so that you can't calm yourself and change and be discerning. Instead, you're
You
angry.
get defensive.
Or defensive, right.
Talk to Mr. Trump, he'll tell you.
Yeah, for sure.
Can we explore how compassion would make us less fearful?
No.
Fearful.
Fearful.
How does compassion make one, how does the cultivation of compassion diminish fear and develop the peace of mind by which you can be more discerning? How does that work? As Mark is asking. Or wishes to explore. Go ahead.
Well, perhaps we're in a situation where there's many, many sentient beings, all with problems and all trying to be happy. And yet, if we are focused on this one tiny little sentient being out of all those billions and more than that, it doesn't seem very realistic. So perhaps with the outlook of compassion, it's more in accord with how things actually are. And therefore, that might calm us down a little or make us
Humble and yes.
I mean, another way to think about it is if you have the capacity to be compassionate against somebody who's angry or mad, it allows you not to respond in the same way. That's that grace of having that space to be able to understand you can't always control whatever that person's going to do. You can only control your reaction to them. So if I don't have compassion in a situation, when I lose patience, that's what I usually identify. Like I didn't have the patience to understand that person was having a problem. And I either needed to accept it or move on or do something, but to respond equally impatiently or angry kind of destroys my space. So that's kind of how I think about it, especially in New York, right?
All these confrontations.
On the train, on the
Yeah,
sidewalk.
you got a lesson walking down the street. The way arguments escalate to fists and whatever guns.
Yeah, accidentally bumping into someone in
Oh.
close space.
That's how World War II started.
Yeah, yeah.
So, just taking your question and actually going through the steps of cultivating compassion, where we work at, first of all, understanding, acknowledging our own situation of suffering, and then acknowledging our dependence on others, and the fact that they are suffering in the same way that we are. Just that process of thinking changes the dynamic between us and them. You want me to change this, Darren? We, by thinking that way, by actually bringing ourselves to this awareness of their suffering, and awareness of the fact that everything that we have in life is due to their kindness. If we have gone through those steps, we have already changed the dynamic to such an extent that we will be more discerning in figuring out how best to help. Okay, so compassion creates a space in our hearts and minds that is calm and settled, and this space makes it much easier for us to exercise discernment and intelligence. Similarly, discernment can strengthen our conviction of the necessity and the benefits of compassion. So actually, that the analytical meditation that brings about compassion is a process of becoming more discerning.
Maybe a hint of compassion is fearful. There's no space in your mind to be fearful. The overriding underlying motivation is compassion. It doesn't allow room. But maybe that's, I don't know, just thinking.
So it also seems to refer to aforementioned components of discernment or elements of discernment, but I wasn't quite sure what those were. But is it the reasoning of for compassion being effective? Is that what it refers to? Right at
The
beginning.
discernment
Yeah.
is to discern how to most effectively benefit others. The compassion is the motivation. So what is your...
So apart from the reasoning which establishes compassion as effective, are there other reasonings which are elements or components of discernment?
In general?
That he outlined. I thought right in the beginning of the section you just read, it seemed to say discernment as outlined above, or something like that.
We talked about it in the previous chapter for sure.
Yes,
Just if there
yes.
were some bullet points about that, but if not, we can move on.
So here, look carefully at a situation in context. What are the underlying causes and conditions that have given rise to it? What choices do I have? What are their likely outcomes? And which course of action, on balance, is most likely to yield the greatest long-term benefit for others?
When we ask ourselves
Yes, when you say we may or may not have good answers, given that we do not know all the variables, we aren't going to have perfect answers. But if we approach the problem with compassion, we shouldn't worry. We are providing the best answer we possibly can.
And that's also compassion for ourselves.
Yeah.
All right, I'm afraid of this compassion for ourselves business. We don't call that compassion.
Very new age.
No, but having an acceptance that we are not Buddhas or Bodhisattvas with clairvoyance
Yeah.
means that we are wishing ourselves to be free of suffering, in a sense. We're recognizing
That comes natural.
We are working to, all right, so we engage in every action wishing to derive pleasure and not pain. That's there. However, if we bring mindfulness to the situation and we see the way in which our grasping at a sense of self causes us to engage in actions that keep us in samsara, within cyclic existence, we will eventually determine that we've got to get out of cyclic existence. All right, so that's we don't refer to that as compassion towards ourselves. That's renunciation. Sorry.
Kind of self-interest.
Yeah, but that's the
That's a good self-interest.
lesser vehicle goal. It's a spiritual goal. Compassion is what leads us to assume responsibility towards others.
I mean, the definition of compassion basically is self, it's other-centered.
Mm,
That's what
mm,
it is.
yeah, yeah.
Because the inability to bear, to see somebody else is suffering and want to do something about it. So all that is other-centered. That's,
Right.
it's not self-centered, it's geared towards others. And seeing others suffer and not being able to stand it and want to do something. I mean, we know that we suffer and we
No,
also
you're
want
right.
to get out of it and everything, but the self-interest, that's just the self-interest that's always been there.
Yeah, naturally.
Yes, it's
I
natural.
blame my parents.
What I think I'm trying to express is that when we recognize our own limitations, we have patience and understand that from beginningless time we've engaged in ignorant actions, then there's a certain kind of
You did,
maybe the right word isn't compassion, but there's a certain patience with ourselves, which to me is a gentleness, a forgiveness, and in that sense, it's self-forgiveness.
Yeah. All of that, yes. We're just afraid of the word compassion being applied to it. That's all.
That's
That's
what she said.
Compassion
Definition is
shouldn't be for
other-centered.
oneself.
The
Alright.
definition of compassion is other-centered.
Yeah, but
It's geared towards others, it's not geared towards
Right,
us.
right, that's
When
right.
you geared towards us, it's basically self-interest.
Yes.
Whether it's a good self-interest or a bad
Right.
self-interest, ignorant
Or
self-interest.
medium.
It's all, it's
Sorry,
a
Mark.
variety.
You're not going to win.
But it's self-centered.
The deck is
In the sense
stacked,
that
Mark.
it's centered towards us.
I'm in Las Vegas.
I have a response. So in Exchanging Self and Other section of Lamrim, Lama Tsongkhapa talks about self and others. The distinction between those two is like one side of the shore and the other side of the shore. And you can't have one without the
That's
other.
In the context of
So
means-
discussing
Yeah.
emptiness, that's in the context
It's
of how
in
the
the section,
definitions came about.
I
Yeah.
think it's in the section
Yeah, I
on
know this.
developing.
So you're trying to develop the same self-centeredness that we have, that Maya has pointed out is the opposite of compassion. You're trying to develop that towards all sentient beings.
But I mean,
That's-
Right?
but to me, this sounds like that there's a very solid self and there's a very solid other. It's, okay, compassion must only be for that solid other. And we shouldn't have compassion for this solid self. Whereas those are interdependent. Therefore, there's no real findable other.
Somebody else has that stuff, compassion for us, that's their job. We're having you froze. They gotta do some work too.
So, we do have to care about ourselves. We do have to work towards diminishing our suffering. That is a fundamental motivation in our practice. Absolutely. But I do think it's helpful. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I do think it's helpful to apply the criterion that Maya is presenting, because it's saying, wait a minute, what we're really trying to do is benefit others. What we're really trying to do is shift this attitude that we have towards satisfying ourselves and have it devoted to others. That's what we're really working, and especially in this sort of secular context, that becomes the fundamental element of this practice.
It's a burden satisfying yourself. It's concerned with it. That's a bit of a burden.
A little chocolate every once in a while.
Espresso, of course.
And a good pasta every once in a while.
Then you'll bring up some.
So,
Later, not right now.
I want to say that it's been, I feel that it's been a pleasure discussing these
Very
things.
style, very right in terms of the heart and heartfelt.
And I feel that what you've brought up is an element that we all grapple with. That's, and don't worry about, you know what we're saying, you know what and you know how you have to grapple with it in your own practice.
All we
So,
can do is our best, right?
do we have any questions online? Do we have any? It is 8 o'clock.
The names. The three big ones.
So, we've been asked to say prayers this evening for Babette Spina,
The cat.
the cat,
The cat that
Tony's dear cat, a 20-year-old cat who died the other day. Geshe Jamspal
Yes, swift return.
and Michael Burns,
Steve Burns, next.
Steve Burns, next youngest brother. So we dedicate our recitation of the Sutra, the recollection of the Noble Three Jewels to them. And so I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans, is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure.
His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not arise in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma which is taught by the Bhagavat is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Yana, they enter completely. They enter insightfully. They enter straightforwardly. They enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha of the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore, the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. Now let's recite a prayer for the swift return by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Lobsang Tubwang Dorje-chan, please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech of the victor Losang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening, yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you till cyclic existence end to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by bodhicitta drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, and wish-fulfilling jewel, return to the glory of Losang Tempe. Magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Srimati Devi,
and the ocean of Dharma protectors, may you spontaneously fulfill our wishes, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. Thank you. So tomorrow evening we'll have class in South Orange, New Jersey, 502 North Ridgewood Road. You are all welcome. 7 o'clock.
Thank you, Nikki, very,
Thank
very
you.
heartfelt,
Thank you.
very good.
We are very fortunate to have you.
Very.
Yes, yeah,
we
we
are
are very fortunate.
Listen, this is a group effort. We are doing